Okay, so one of the first things you got to do to get the gearbox off is remove this intercooler. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start by taking the intercooler off, and then a few other bits and pieces. We're going to disconnect the battery as well, and yeah. First issue, this breather pipe running from the intake is just cracked. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot more like this. The car's 120k in it, and a lot of this stuff hasn't been replaced. So, first issue. Okay, so we've put the battery out, disconnected the breather pipes here and the intercooler. Like I said, one of them's just snapped. This one started to crack as well. So they're going to have to be replaced. What we're going to do now is just remove or loosen the pipe that connects the intercooler to the inlet manifold. I've done this before, from what I remember. It can be quite tricky. I'm just going to loosen the bolts either side of the intercooler. This is a 12mm socket. Extension. Okay, so we've got those bolts out. See if this will come away. I've still got to. I'm going to take this off here. Yeah. I'm going to take this dump valve off as well. None of this has been taken off in a while. I just feel it. Okay. Right. Now that is loose. I'm going to put those bolts back into the intercooler once I get it off. Into the intercooler. Okay, so just freeing up. That's good. I'm really stupid. I've forgotten the pipe down here. The Y-piece pipe that comes off the turbo and connects to the intercooler. That actually feels a little bit loose. Suspiciously loose. There we go, that's freed up. Then we get to do this bit of fiddling. so to give me a bit more clearance, I'm going to take the middle section of this strut brace off. I think that should give me a bit more space. Okay, so bolts that side, just a nut this side. That's going to give me a bit more space, that's good. Right, that's off. Okay. So I'm going to put these back in there. Now I should have a little bit more clearance to pop this off. There she is. Okay. There it is. It's off. One intercooler. It's got some mileage. There's a lot of oil on the bottom of that. The car was boosting up fine, but like I said, it is quite high mileage. So anyway, that's off. I'm going to put the bolts back in there. Okay, so that's the intercooler off. You're going to have to get a new gasket for the dump valve. There is a fair bit of oil here on the high pressure side of the turbo, but it's not, well, I say a fair bit, it's not bad. But below it, it looks like there's an oil leak somewhere down there in that region. I'll get the camera to show you now. So as you can see, that looks pretty unmolested. This stuff hasn't come off in a while. So that earth cable isn't looking too great. Can you see there's a fair bit of oil down there? I'm pretty sure the PCV valve is somewhere here. Actually, it's just come back to me. It's there somewhere. Actually, that could be it right there. Nope. Anyway, it's somewhere there, but there's definitely an oil leak in that general area, so I'm gonna have to have a look at that as well. This intake pipe doesn't look too healthy. It's quite common for these to crack. So as always when doing stuff on cars, you do one thing and you notice another 10. So anyway, and if you can see, the master cylinder there isn't in great nick. So that needs to be replaced as well at some point. Anyway, I'm going to chuck some WD-40 on some bits here now, just to get it all freed up. Don't need that. I need this. So I'm going to attempt to take this heat shield off. Is the bolt that's holding that on going to snap? I really don't want it to. Yeah, that feels like that's going to snap, guys. kind of want to try and save it, if I'm honest. I might actually chuck some heat into it. Just, yeah, that's gonna snap, and I don't. It might seem a bit OTT, but I kind of don't want that to snap. So I'm actually going to chuck some heat into that. So let's see. It's moving. It snapped. Great. Oh well. It is what it is. And that's why you never see Subarus with these on. Nonetheless, we'll be able to sort that. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't bother me, I promise. Okay, so we're going to take the O2 sensor off now. I've got the adapter for it, but it is a 22mm spanner. So yeah, you'll be able to get at this one with a 22mm spanner. I just actually had this to hand. So the next step was to take the under trays off. There's one at the front, and then one that sort of covers the gearbox area as well. The bolts we're going to try and get to, you can just about see it up there on the bottom of the start motor. That's going to be my first one I tackle. I also have noticed that my rocker cover gaskets absolutely need to be replaced. I didn't think they were that bad. And there is an oil leak coming from the bottom of the gearbox, so I think the rear crankshaft seal has gone, which I've ordered. So yeah, next thing is we're going to make a start on that starter motor. We're going to try and get that off now. I've done the one at the top, so let's get the bottom one off and then go from there. I'm going to drain the gearbox fluid now. I can't quite remember if a lot of fluid comes out of the side of there when you take the drive shafts out. So yeah, we'll have a look, see what the score is. But either way, there's no harm draining it because it's going to be drained anyway. So my camera battery ran out last night. Okay, so where I'm at now is both drive shafts are out. Both front drive shafts. In order to do that, like I said earlier, you're going to disconnect the lower ball joint, the drop link, and the track rod end. Might be good practice if your car's got some mileage on it to order these in advance. I mean, mine look okay. One of them, the nuts wasn't that great coming off, so I'm going to order a replacement one of those. The drive shafts themselves, once you disconnect it from here, once all this is off, you can then pop this out with a crowbar. This side was actually quite difficult to pop out. I thought it was the one with the pin going through it, but that's just the 5-speed. So literally once this is slackened off and you can move it that way, get a crowbar, push a pressure on it and it will pop out. This side was super easy.
Don't touch these because these are all done by tension on the diff at the front. So you don't want to mess about with the tightness of them. So now take them off. Then take the exhaust off. You've got 14mm studs, nuts on the top of the turbocharger you've got to take off. There's a bracket there. That's a 14mm as well. What else? And yeah, then it's just unclipping it from the rear, really. So yeah, take that. I take the whole thing off in one piece. I took the whole drive shafts out. I can't remember actually if you've got to take them out. You might be able to get away with it with just the drive shaft end resting here. I think you should be okay with space. So, but if you can take the drive shaft off, it does give you a bit more room. The socket you need for the drive shaft bolts, by the way, is a 32mm. If you've got an impact, it will just rip it right out. Works a treat. But if you don't, like I said, I think you can rest them here. I'm sure I did that before. So yeah. Now the next thing for us to do is, we've got the starter motor out. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 5 and 6 bolts left to do. I've already drained the gearbox oil as well, so that's done. And then we're going to be taking this prop shaft off next. So I think, yeah, I think it's 14mm here. And then we're going to take that off. I usually mark this up as well. I'm going to put a little marker there just to make sure it goes back exactly where it should be, orientation wise. So yeah, next step for us now is to take this prop shaft off. Okay, so we've now got the prop shaft off. Like I said, it was mainly 14mm bolts running along here. There's 1, 2, there's 6 there, another 2 here for the centre bracket, and then for the connection between the prop and the diff, is 12mm. So you need 12mm spanner for that. Like I said, mark it up. I put a little black mark there, and I just tapped it with a punch as well. You can see where other people have marked it before and they've taken this off. So yeah, that's relatively straightforward, this bit now. So the next stage is to make a start on the gearbox bolts. So here goes. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, before we start on the gearbox bolts, I forgot there's electrical connectors we're going to take off up here. What have we got? 1, 2, 3. We also have an earth, I believe, cable to take off. I think that's it, and then we're going to take the slave cylinder off. So 14mm bolts for that. These connectors are always fiddly, so I'm hoping they'll come off easy. But yeah, so those connectors, that I can't remember if I showed in the video earlier, except my battery died annoyingly, but I took the oxygen sensor off here, and then one of the very first things at the start of this video, what I would do is just cover all the nuts and bolts with WD-40, because the bolts here that connect the turbo to the downpipe, in the past I've had a nightmare with these, so luckily this car was quite forgiving, so I'd cover them with WD-40 to begin with. You could just disconnect this O2 sensor, to be fair, rather than wind it off. It was really accessible, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take it off.
so it doesn't foul on stuff as I'm dropping it down. Yeah, so 3 connectors and the slave cylinder. So let's get cracking. Okay, so this is just a quick overview of where we're at in a bit more detail. Apologies if that time lapse wasn't that informative. It's my first gig, okay guys? First YouTube gig. So these are the connectors I'm talking about. You got 3 here. The 5-speed is very similar as well. So this process is very, very similar to the 5-speed. So if you've got a WRX, this should cover you. So yeah, there's 3 connectors here. They can be a bit fiddly. That one down there was the most fiddly. So what I did was I fit a flathead screwdriver just under there, twisted it a little bit, and then pressed the clip, and it popped off. The other 2 weren't too bad as they were. This is the, I think it's an earth cable that links the chassis to the gearbox. Then this is the slave cylinder. So these can be quite tricky to bleed and all sorts of stuff like that. So trying not to disturb this. This is the clutch fork, which is what that presses against. There's actually a spring as well that links up here. And then this is where the slave cylinder links up the gearbox. So where I can, I always put the bolts back in. I have got a little tray, which I keep most of my stuff in, so this is it here. So I'd advise getting one of them. But you know, where you can just wind it all back in, like I put that bolt back in there, it's just good practice. It makes it so much easier, because a lot of the bolts and stuff on these Subarus are quite similar on the drivetrain, but they vary ever so slightly in length. So for example, the starter motor has one longer and one shorter bolt, which is what I put in here, because this has caught me out before. So can you see I put, you can't see it there with the flash, this is SMU, so start the motor upper, and then SM, there we go, starter motor lower. So they're both the starter motor, but they're different sizes. So this has caught me out before when I've put the gearbox back on, and it's already hard enough. I have done it on the drive before, twice before now. So this is my first time on a lift, so it feels a bit of a luxury. But you don't want to be second guessing yourself when you're laying underneath the car. Anyway, so that's always handy. And then I've cable tied the start motor up here as well. My phone is not focusing. There we go. So the next thing, I don't know if you can see it. See that little, there's like an access hole there, basically. It's like a metal cap, threaded metal cap that comes off, and there's an Allen key part in there. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna take that off, and then you have to pull the clutch, oh, what's it called? I can't even remember. There's like a pin basically that runs across the width of the gearbox here. So almost to this, it'll run across to this face. And then the clutch fork, it slides through the clutch fork. So this has caught me out before. This applies to the 5 speeds as well. If you try taking the gearbox off without taking this little access hole away and then removing the clutch sort of retainer, the clutch fork retainer pin or whatever, I can't remember what it's called now, but if you don't remove that, you will not be able to slide this gearbox off. You'll be pulling it for ages. It'll move about maybe 10 mil and you'll be thinking, oh, it's almost there, and then you'll be there for ages. So that's what we're going to do next. I'll try and film that. I don't know quite how I'm going to film that for you guys, whether I do it from the bottom or the top, but either way I will try my best to show you what's what with it. Okay, so here's the bit.
an Allen key bit. Now these can be quite tight in here. So let's see if I can get that in. Wow, that was on there tight. It's not usually that tight in there. That's what she said, but anyway, this is professional, no jokes. Right, so can't quite see my hand in the way. Should slowly see this come out now. Change the angle a bit so you can see. Right, there it is. Wow, my phone is not focusing. Right, there we go. Looks like there's some thread lock on that. Or was that grease? I'm not sure. But that was quite tight in there. So anyway, that's the little bit you have to take off. It's the one thing that most people forget. So make sure you take that off. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the camera down to the access hole. I'm going to see if I can just shine the camera with a flash in there so you can actually see what I'm talking about. You'll see that there is basically a bar with a threaded hole inside it. So let's see if I can show you. There we go. Is that focusing? So what we've got to do is slide that out because it goes through the clutch fork, which connects to the clutch release. So yeah, the way to do that is you get, I think it's a 10mm, an M10 bolt. And I think I used a socket that's slightly larger with a washer. Sometimes you can just pull it out with just a bolt. So you just like put a M10 bolt in there and then it's long enough that you just literally grab the threads, the excess threads, and pull it out. So we'll see what the score is now. So I'll get a few bits and then we'll have a go. Okay guys, so this is what I've devised. This is it. So like I said, I think it's an M10 bolt. There's plenty of these when you take the car apart, to be honest. This is an old one of an old Subaru I had, this bolt here. So I've used, I'll take it apart for you. Bolt like that, then just found a random nut, space it all out a little bit like that, and it slides in and it just bites the retaining pin enough inside. So I am taking my time with it because this one felt quite hard to get out. The last thing you want is this bolt here to snap inside it. So I've sprayed it with WD-40 and I'm just a couple of turns winding this off and then double checking the distance then with my finger. So I'll just put this in place so you can see what it looks like. Again, it will get to a point where the bar will actually hit the socket. So, do you know what I mean? So we'll have to devise something to go a bit bigger, I think. But hopefully by that point it will be free enough just to pull out on the bolt itself by just grabbing it and pulling it. So I'll just zoom in a bit. There we go. Right. Like I said, we're just going to take a time here. There you go. That's pinched on there, so that's hard now. That's quite difficult for me to push. So what's happened is the pin
itself is hitting the socket. So let's see. This has come out at all. Yeah, that's definitely moving. So what I'm going to do now is get a bigger socket over there. Here's my plan. And then hopefully this will come out. Right guys, so what I've had to do is just sort of make adaptations to the first sort of socket set and stuff I use, or socket I use, sorry. So you can just about see the silver there of the pin for the clutch fork slowly coming out. So just take your time with it. This one, like I said, this one seems to be a lot more difficult to get out. It just doesn't seem, usually by this point it'll just pop out, you can pull it. So, but nonetheless, it is coming. So I just got to take my time with it. So yeah, make sure you take your time, and you know, don't do it in such a way that the thread will snap in there or anything like that. So just take your time, like I said. So I'll show you when it comes out and what it looks like. Okay guys, so here it is. Here's the sort of pin that comes through. Mine was really difficult to get out. It's not usually this difficult, but yeah, so this is it. I had to space it out like this. Let's see if I can take this off. Of course, that's not good. There it is. So there's a threaded insert. Just going to pull it out like that. Anyway, on to the next step. Okay, so sit rep, where we're at the minute is we've got the transmission mount left at the top. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bell housing bolts left. All the electrics are unplugged. The exhaust is off, prop shaft is off, drive shafts are both off. That's all we've got left really is the gear linkage. I've only ever taken this off a 5-speed before, don't really recognise this cable. Don't actually know what that is. Yeah, maybe I'm just being stupid. But anyway, so we got to take the gear linkage off, and then that's it. It's just these mounts. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 5 and 6 bolts there. Like I said, 4 bolts around the bell housing, and then the transmission mount as well. We've also taken the clutch guide pin out for the fork, so you can see right through there. And yeah, and then we should be able to take this off. So that's where we're at. So like I said, we're going to take this linkage off next. Okay, so basically I got this wrong earlier. There's a little tiny clip on that, that's fine, so that bit was right. The bit I got wrong was, I didn't notice, but on this there's a little cut out at the bottom. So when you undo this bolt, you can just slide the lever down. So I went for the mounts instead, see the 1 and 2 at the top.
I've done this before. This has caught me out before, and it must have been done exactly the same thing all those years ago. So anyway, so loosen that, and then you can just slide this down. So that frees off that assembly. That nut is welded that side, and then it was just the nut on the top there, nut and bolt on the actual selector. Slide that out, and yeah, we're all good. So this is all freed off now. So this side of the gearbox is all good. Just double checking. So that's all we've got left is the transmission mount at the top, and then the 4 bolts down the bottom, and then the actual mounts on beneath the car as well. So yeah. Okay, so one of the things you're going to want to do as well is when that gearbox comes out, this engine is going to want to go this way. So some people I've seen online, like they'll put like a block of wood here somewhere. I don't know. I didn't feel that comfortable doing that because I just feel like something will go wrong. But it depends where you're doing it. If you're doing it on the drive, you can just put a jack. If you've got a spare jack down there to support the weight, that's what I did before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off because it needs to come off anyway. Then I got this ratchet strap mounted to there, and it's going to hook over to that bolt, and then that'll just keep the tension this way. So that's the way I'm going to do it. But either way, as long as you prevent this engine from tilting that way when the gearbox is out, because you're going to want it to go that way so you can slide it out. So yeah, that's the next step, guys. Okay, so here we go. I got the ratchet strap hooked up there. When I put the tension on here, definitely pitched the engine a little bit more that way. So I'm confident the way that's set up that it's going to work. Like I said, some people put a block of wood there, the jack underneath. It's up to you. That's how I've done it. Anyway, next step now is back underneath the car. We're going to put the transmission jack under the transmission, and then we're going to start taking all the remaining of the bolts off. Okay, so I've said this a million times already, but yeah, we got 2 bolts there. Sorry, it's actually a nut and a bolt. What I have done as well is I removed the dipstick from the top because that might hit the bulkhead. So just fill that with some rags or something like that so nothing falls in there. So we're going to undo them next, and then it's going to be these supporting brackets. Okay, so I've got all the bell housing bolts off, and I've taken the majority of the transmission bracket bolts off. The ones that are in there like half done up, so there's still some support underneath, but it's got the ability to move back and forth. So what I've done is I've come up here and basically used a chisel and a hammer just to go down there and split this apart, because there's 2 dowel pins at the bottom and they can become quite seized. So luckily this one was freed up. Okay, I'm hoping once I go down the bottom, it's just the actual transmission, the transmission mounts that are stopping this from sliding further now. So yeah, let's go back underneath the car. Okay, so now the gearbox is off. Like I said, I was having issues with this with 4th and 5th. At high RPM, it was grinding on the synchros. So I was kind of kind of hoping that it wasn't the synchros that had gone. Thankfully, it looks like it's the spigot bearing or the pilot bearing. So this is the flywheel off the car. Can you see? It's all like fractured there, and that inner race should be spinning. So what's been happening is, because that's seized up, you can see it's been making this shaft turn, even if it's just ever so slightly, when it should be disengaged. You can actually see the wear marks there. So I'm fairly confident that new clutch assembly will sort the grinding between 4th and 5th. You can see there's lots of burn marks here and on the flywheel. So this needs to be done quite badly. As well as that, we got the crankshaft oil seal here. It needs to be sorted. Relatively inexpensive part, but a bit of a nightmare to get to. So definitely overdue.